All right, is Bitcoin at its bottom, or are we in for some troubled waters ahead? My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to TechPath. We're going to get in today to Bitcoin. I know you guys have been asking about the latest chart on the CPI and what we're doing on. If you have not been to our channel before, the way we do these market movers is real simple. We'll put together some stories, give you guys some insights on what we're thinking and seeing in the marketplace, and then we'll layer in our data to hopefully look from a chart aspect and also from a sentiment and amplification aspect on some of these tokens, Bitcoin being the subject for today. But before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about what's happening in related industry news, which I think has a lot of effect on Bitcoin's price. And this is another big hit, I feel, more FUD that's going into the marketplace, and that is SEC reportedly looking into BlockFi's crypto yield products, claiming that it is a security. If this goes into play and we actually see the SEC challenge BlockFi in this area, this could be another FUD scenario that could again scare away retail investors and prolong the bull run. And that is what I'm really more concerned about, is how long will this bull run continue if we see skittish retail investment and also kind of a little bit of a waffling on many of the big gargantuan analysts that have been calling for Bitcoin at the 100K mark in November. So you have to remember that we've seen a lot of analysts and analysis that have been looking to 100K in November. My own was 100K towards the end of the year. I still feel very good at that, but the only thing that I would challenge myself on is if we see this extended scenario of FUD. And typically, yes, we get that downturn. If you look back at the 17 mark and you're comparing, has a lot of similarities to this 2017 bull run. But I look at it from a sentiment standpoint, and what concerns me right now is the fact that the sentiment has been able to hold somewhat linear for quite a while on Bitcoin, and that's always a bit of a kind of a bit of a scare to me, because I always feel like that's priced in. And are we going to see any kind of step ups through retail investors? And I've got some data to show you on that. Also, jumping into the news here is Bitcoin crowd appears to be on hopium on the buy the dip trends. And what I mean by that is you've got a lot of people that are talking on Twitter and really going into this whole issue of, could Bitcoin hit 55? Could it hit 52? Or is it done at the 60K mark with that kind of resistance and push? If you look at what Plan B is saying, let's just jump right into his latest tweet to clarify. 98K November prediction is not based on the stock to flow model, but on his floor model. Now, I always thought it was based on the stock to flow model, but maybe I misunderstood it when he was rolling these predictions out. As he said before in tweets, latest podcast, I used 3 models: stock to flow, floor model, on chain. And for example, 98K floor model prediction fails. It does not mean that the stock to flow or on chain fails. So that'll be interesting to see how this one actually pulls off in Plan B's scenario of what he had in terms of which he hit on. Interestingly enough, he hit on this. If you look back into August, 47K, September was the 43, October was the 63, and November is where he's going into the 98 range. So I still think he might be a bit under on this. And I think a lot of people have kind of indicated that this is the month that we don't see this scenario hold water, because we're 13 days out now before we'll see end of month and close. So that'll be interesting to watch. The other thing is Willy Woo, who is, I think, another really respected analyst on Bitcoin especially, and his recommendations, the holder kind of buyers are stepping in. That's the people who are definitely coming in and saying, wait a minute, I'm going to buy this dip. That's the scenario. But he did get quite a bit of a pushback from his audience. So we were seeing that whole pushback of kind of this fear and greed component. I love the art and the stuff that's happening on Twitter right now. How many times did you buy the dip this year? Then you've got a lot of people just really kind of, I started buying Bitcoin, was 500, watched it go up to 20K, and then go down to 35, and he held. So that was the kind of scenario that I think a lot of people are facing right now, is are we at that edge? And are you asking the question, is this the top? And I think with all indicators, we're still seeing more run here on this particular situation with Bitcoin right now. So I think we'll answer this here in a minute in terms of should you buy, should you sell. There's two different scenarios for you that I'm going to play out that I think will get you guys going in the right direction. At least that's the way I'm playing it out. Fear and greed index holding at 52. Yesterday was very high, of course, and then we saw a pretty good fall off. And then, of course, last week was ridiculous because we were really flying high at one of our all-times. And then last month, very extreme greed. Again, longer period of time, but now we have fallen to a neutral position, which is quite a bit of one right there. On man, these, I tell you what, you can never escape the ads on these things of where this is going. But this is what we've got right now on fear and greed. So neutral position at 52. Let's take a look over at the current rainbow chart, which I think is always one that makes people have fun. I haven't watched this one or looked at this one in a while, and I feel like it hits it right on the number of where it's going, and it definitely has seemed to fall in there. But if you look at where it is holding right now, we are dipping into the hodl, which is right under the 50 or 60K mark, versus where we had dipped into a strong hodl position and even into a still cheap position right here when we were down into the 30K. So you can kind of see where it's holding right now of where this is holding, and that is where it is holding. Hold Bitcoin. So I like this one. It's kind of fun to watch. I want to go back here and look what it was back in 2018 when we had that kind of same scenario, which was this period right here that a lot of people believe is this period right here that we're dealing with between 2017 and also 2021. So anyway, that's kind of the cool part of that one. Let's jump into the TradingView, because this is going to give us a little bit more indicators of where Bitcoin is going, and also a little bit of history here on sentiment. And this is what I was talking about earlier, is you've got a 71 sentiment all the way back here in September, in 75 and 76. This is the amplification flip that we saw where we almost went up to our all-time high at the 65. And then we got that little dip right there, which was where we dropped a little bit right here on this amplification. Flat, it kind of went flat for a little bit, and then we saw this amplification flip again. This was back in right there on November 6th, and then we saw our all-time high almost to 70,000 with I think a 68.9 or something of that nature. But that is essentially kind of flowing right into the hand. And then of course our current dip, which we're in right now, sentiment is at 70.61, but amplification fell off dramatically. Now this is where it gets a little bit concerning. What I think this could do is we're going to see either a sideways action swoop through here through the beginning of December, or we're going to see a little bit of more of a dip before we see this thing take off in terms of where it is right now, whether we see some sideways action, and if it gets into this dip right here will be the question. So if I'm looking at strategy, and there's one thing that I wanted to point out here, and that is retail sentiment is 63.15. Trader sentiment is higher, 70.18. So what that tells me is that if you look at wallets that are holding, which is the trader sentiment, versus new wallets are basically selling out. They're getting out. So retail investors, this is where retail investors are stepping away for a timeout, saying, wait a minute, this is not what I signed up for. They haven't seen these 30% moves and what these represent in terms of making money in crypto. And I think a lot of people miss that whole understanding when they get into something. So if you're new to crypto and you're watching this channel, you may think the sky is falling right now. The reality is this is a normal day at the park for Bitcoin. And seeing a 10 to 15 to 20% move in a matter of 2 or 3 days, that scares a lot of retail investors away quickly. And that's kind of what Willy Woo's talking about, and also even to a certain extent where Plan B is talking on stock to flow and how this might really adjust and hit the mark. And it's also what I'm looking at from a sentiment standpoint. When you look at the amplification number at 68.34, it means a lot less people are talking about it. But at the same time, top line sentiment, which is the bullish indicator, still holding. The thing, if you go back to the chart, the thing that would concern me is this. If we were to see amplification, or excuse me, sentiment coming off these 70 numbers into the 60s, if we saw that on Bitcoin, then we have top line sentiment starting to adjust. And that concerns me because it usually will affect the bulls and the traders and also the institutions when we start to see that kind of a move. But we haven't seen that. So it tells me long-term wise, because you can go back in here and look at this all the way back to September, October, November, we're almost 90 days out of sentiment tracking right here. And when you think about that and where we still have left to go, it looks like it's going to hold through the end of the year. So this could be just a short-term drop and an opportunity. If you've been in crypto for a long time, you understand buy the dip, buy a big way. So there's two ways to play this, and I'm going to probably play it both ways. One way to play this, if you're a trader, is to wait a little bit longer, because we may see a little bit more price action pushing down Bitcoin, maybe to as far as my low here was about a 51.5 or so around the end of November. Not quite, right around Thanksgiving time. So around a 51 or 52. If that happens, this is where the buy the dip trader is going to jump in and then go long on Bitcoin. That's what I'm going to do if I get that opportunity. Then you're going to have a certain amount of portfolio that you might say, listen, this is a good price. I could buy this right now. A week ago, 2 weeks ago, this was touching 70K. I could buy this right now at 60K at a huge discount because I plan on holding through this bull run. That's a different strategy. That might be something where you're just doing some dollar cost averaging and you haven't watched a lot of videos on dollar cost averaging. It's an easy way to continue to build your crypto asset position. So there's really two plays here for both trader types, whether you are a holder or you are a trader. The thing that I am not concerned about, again, back on the point of the fact that we've had stability in the sentiment side, is I don't think this is the top. I think we still have some left. And I'm going to be watching this top line sentiment very closely because that is the one for Bitcoin, to me, that is the most telling of how things might start to flow out. Amplification concerns me again a lot because we haven't seen this low of an amplification score at 68 in a while. And in fact, I don't think we saw it before it was above maybe 40,000. I'll look back on our history on this one to see, but that's a pretty low for Bitcoin. That's not a low amplification score overall, but for Bitcoin, that's a little bit of a low amplification score. Anyway, we love to get this this kind of content over to you guys. We are going to continue to drop stuff into the Diamond Circle. We've got some more giveaways we're doing this week, and also some new guides and reports that we're dropping on NFT gaming. So join the Diamond Circle. It's free. You're going to start to see a lot of additional education, insights on some of these up and coming tokens, and maybe ways where you can really make money in crypto, because that's what this channel is about, is to help you guys discover the hidden gems and learn how to ride these big waves like what you're seeing with Ethereum and Bitcoin right now. You can always hit me out on Twitter, and that is just @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.